So the next part of the Hustings and the final part, and this is the main part as far as we're concerned as Place Council, is you, the audience, have an opportunity to ask questions of the politicians. So there's going to be a mic going around. If anybody wants to put their hand up.
Hi, I'm Bertie Horgan from UCU, the University Colleges Union. We've been on strike for 20 days this year so far. And I've heard from all of you about how, in theory, you support workers' rights. I'd like to ask each of you, how many days were you on our picket line during that strike? We even visited it for half an hour. I'm asking that because I was on it every single day. And by the way, crossing it doesn't count. Okay.
I was on it a lot of days. I was worried that people thought, has he nothing else to do? And the issues I'm very aware of. Pay for lectures has been cut by 25% over the last 15 or so years. Casualisation is a huge issue, temporary contracts and pensions. But this is also a fight about education provision as well, because it's about devaluing teaching, and that devalues the education, which then has an impact on the students that you're trying to educate and develop and turn into the best possible human beings. And look, I don't turn up on those picket lines because I want to be seen there. It's not because PVP wants to go and show that we are showing our support. It's because we believe that when workers take action and other people take action through protest, through struggle, that's how we're going to really bring social change. And that's the key thing about all these struggles. At the end of the day, whatever promises are made now before May 5th, that's not going to determine what the executive will do. What will determine what happens afterwards is, will there be a growing cost of living crisis movement, and people in Derry have led that? Will that spread across the north? Will it spread across this island to link up into a mass movement? And I commend Sinead and Paul and Davy and everybody else that has led the way in that campaign. Will the workers' movement unite and bring people together? Because that is what's happening. It's going to be those actions that actually bring about social change. So we're on the picket lines in solidarity because we believe this is how we're going to change. We're going to bring fundamental change.
Thank you, Sean.
Well, no, I wasn't on the picket lines. I wasn't even aware there was a strike on, because our society has become so atomised and divided over the last few years. It's very difficult to keep track of things.
Thanks for the question, Grady. I think you know the answer to your own question, which is fine. I haven't been on the UC picket line, nor many others, but I don't for a second equate that to not being interested in workers' rights. I'm a very proud member of Unison, and I think that what matters to a lot of workers is not whether or not you're standing on a rainy day at a picket line, but when decisions that are within your gift, like they are for those of us who are councillors, with relation to our own staff, that they don't even have to ask if we are going to back them up. They know that parties like Aontu will very much be at the forefront of making sure that they get the pay increase that they're asking for, while other parties are quite happy to, and I don't, not for a second, casting aspersions on their intentions, will stand at picket lines, and then when decisions actually need to be made behind closed doors, forget their principles. That isn't something that we're going to do, but I certainly don't equate not being at a picket line to not supporting workers.
In terms of the picket line, Grady, you've met me up there before. I don't think I've been there this year. I went up one lunchtime and there was no one there. And then my next visit was the big day of strike action, where my trip to the picket line at the outside the university was intercepted by the crowd walking towards the council offices. We do support workers, but we can't always be everywhere. And that's
Thank you, Mark.
and then we can be assured of our support.
Thank you, Greta, for the question. Obviously, all Sinn Féin, whether it's local councillors or MLAs, like always wanted to support all our workers and be there at the picket line. Me personally, I have been at one picket line at the university, and that was the joint one that Mark referred to.
But I came here tonight and I can ask one question that everybody can answer very, very easily. Who on the panel has no access to a fire or a flue? Who has to rely on gas that went up twice for us? It's 50.5% in 2 months it's gone up. I have a lot of health problems. I'm not going to be able to afford to use heating. If I don't heat my house, I can't sleep, I can't walk, I can't increase my income anymore. A lot of my disabilities happened because I was a nurse. Nursing, yes, was destroyed by Margaret Thatcher. She brought in the band. So all your experience, everything you had was thrown to the wayside, and all you got was a D-band, which is a very basic income. The other point I want to make is I have a friend here in Derry. I've been over and back to Aontu myself and Fallen. But I have a friend who's over every single week to Aontu with pain, like severe pain, vomiting. She has a gallbladder problem. She's on an urgent list to get surgery. She actually took a loan out and is going out to Turkey to get her surgery on her own. I'm afraid maybe she might spark a kidney. Who's doing the surgery? I know nothing about it. The girl is desperate to get out of pain. She rang her consultant to see could she get notes to bring to Turkey with her, and just happened to ask her if she was on the list. She's an urgent case, but they're only due January 2019 now, so she'll be waiting another 2 years. So she's off on a plane to Turkey on Sunday. And if anything happens to her, even though I'm not a great speaker, I will definitely talk about it because it's not fair. She's worked, I've worked, we've paid our dues into the system, and now we can't get anything back.
I know, and someone has mentioned before, we've done our best at Sinn Fein and what we could do with what was available. And you know, Deirdre Harvey, obviously, at the last minute, before the executive pulled down, 55 million, 280,000 people, £200. I know £200 doesn't go far. You know, you need 5 times that to actually be able to hit your home, but it's what we could do. It is shameful that we have £300 million sitting there, so, you know, and it could be spent and get into people's pockets, and that's we need. I need to pull up our sleeves, all of us, get back in after the 5th of May and deliver for those that are vulnerable. As for the health service, we were fortunate enough that the executive did, in principle, commit collectively to invest £1 billion into the health service, to tackle our witness, to ensure mental health is invested in, and cancer services. Thank you.
Thank you. You touch on 2 very topical and hugely important issues and ones that desperately need tackled. The cost of living crisis, the government, we need a government for a start. We need an executive to do everything that it can to help protect people here. We don't have that, even when we did, and we've heard rightly from other people on the panel, as well as from me, it hasn't done a great job of protecting people, but no executive means no protection. Here is referred to that unspent money. That's an absolute disgrace. But it didn't just fall out of the sky when Jeffrey Donaldson pulled the DUP out of the First Minister's office. There's been money sloshing around. Emmett referred earlier to money that haven't been sent back through this mandate and previous ones, unspent money that was earmarked for protecting vulnerable people that has been sent back. That's an absolute disgrace. That's why I've been campaigning throughout the pandemic, given the increased costs that people were facing already, being spending more time at home, they were spending more money heating it, and that's before these astronomical and completely unacceptable price increases, completely reprehensible. Now, we've made overtures prior as to how this money could be got out. Discretionary support should have been extended so that people who are actually working and struggling to get by should be able to access it. That was poo-pooed. We defended fiercely the cut to the uplift in universal credit. We were told by the Finance Minister there is no money. Now, I don't know how they went from having no money in November to having £300 million now that they can't spend. I think the political will was there to do that, and that's why we need to change the dynamic around the executive table. It is about power. Emma was right earlier, but it's the power to make positive change for people.
There's always money. You'll notice that For example, there was £15 million for 3 years when MLAs weren't in an active assembly. You'll see that the money, for example, and I'm not going to necessarily give Sean all the credit for this, but to be fair to him, Sean brought a motion to Derry City and Strabane District Council about a month ago to spend £3 million COVID reserve. And Aontu backed him up on that. We wanted it £3 million spent now. And Mark's party, Kira's party, amended the motion to say, let's spend X on X. So no one got any money, and no one knows when they're going to get any money. So actions do matter, and turning up does matter. What your specific question about the flus? I wish I had one now.
I really think I don't mind going out and buying clean fuel and putting it in, because I'm not paying a big bloody corporation that's making millions.
Yeah.
And no windfall tax on them.
Do you know the thing that I was really glad of this last number of months is people who had oil, for example, who also had an open fire as a backup. Because whenever I went out and bought free solid fuel for people, they could use it.
Yeah, and I couldn't.
I didn't write a letter about it. I didn't talk about it to Conor Murphy or anybody else. I went out and did it because that's what people need. That's the kind of action that people need now. You know, get back into an executive on May 6th. People,
Thanks,
I can guarantee you, come May the 7th, no one will still have any plans to sort this out around the executive table.
I sympathise totally. Do you know if you build a house in Donegal now, you're not allowed to get chimney? In case anybody could burn a bit of turf or pick up some firewood because there's no profit in it. And that's exactly what it's about. And it will get worse because, as I've said, we have here a fiat currency not linked to gold, and governments have been printing money and giving it to politicians to bribe their friends with and bribe their electorate with for decades. And the chickens are coming home to roost, and it is going to get worse. And what is going to happen next is these ludicrous climate goals. The climate is controlled by the sun and the movement of heavenly bodies. There is no evidence, no evidence whatsoever that man-made carbon dioxide contributes in any way to the temperature or the weather of this planet. And I challenge anybody to debate that. It's nonsense, and poor people will become poorer, and the people who have invested in the eco-crucifixes they call wind turbines, which do not replace their value in their lifetime, they do not make enough energy as would pay for the infrastructure.
Yeah.
And lithium, we have children now in mines mining lithium for electric cars. The batteries cost 200 quid, there's no charging points. This is to make all of us go back to the hovels where the elites think we belong and live like serfs. So thank you for your question. I have no answers, but unless people wake up, we're just going to walk around, as I say, sloshing around in debt, and it is over, because your children will pay it back. We will pay it back.
Yeah, look, the issue around the hardship crisis, and I insist on calling it a hardship crisis for working class communities, is because it is that bad and it's going to get worse. It started a year ago, and yes, there was £300 million that could have been spent, but it wasn't, and the DUP have a lot of responsibility for walking out of the executive and not allowing that money to be utilised to give as much help to as many people as quickly as possible. But look, a number of us were up at Stormont in December, well before the executive was collapsed, demanding that the executive declare a hardship emergency and have an emergency sitting in order then to put adequate resources towards the scale of the crisis. What was the attitude of the bigger parties? No need to do it, turn their nose up and ignored the protest, right? And so there was opportunities well before the DUP collapsed everything to take greater and bigger action. There's also been lots of ways that we could have actually helped people. Emmett mentioned the 3 million. Look, our council shouldn't have to put 3 million of its reserves money towards a hardship fund here in our district. We brought forward that proposal because the actions of the executive was absolutely disgraceful. So we have to do something. We can't sit in our hands when people collapse into poverty and can't pay their bills, can't feed their children. So what happened to that proposal? The SDLP were the first in to change it. They were then followed by Sinn Fein, who attempted to change it again, and then they finally all got their way, where all five of the executive parties circled the wagons to make sure that nothing was done. They wouldn't do something different to help people, and the same attitude has existed again and again over the whole series of votes up in Stormont.
Poverty is one of the biggest issues the majority of people in the Foyle constituency are facing today. Many ordinary people like myself and Kenda in the back as well, and Paul and Sharon Kelly and many others, we've been forced into a really uncomfortable position of using our voices to highlight our particular situations and the poverty that we're experiencing, critiquing the lack of an adequate response from all layers of government and mobilising people to fight back against this injustice. I can thank Mark, Emmett and Sean for supporting this campaign to date. I want to know, Ciara, why you haven't been there, and Anne, why you haven't been there, because it's very obvious that your party and you as an individual very much support protest campaigns and rallies. So I want to know why you weren't outstanding the working class people of this town when they really needed you for the last 3 months.
Sinead, it's unfortunate that no one was able to make your rally, but your 3 rallies, but I want to rest assured, day in and day out, Sinn Féin elected representatives, if you call your office, are flat out supporting individual residents on a daily basis with any assistance that they need regarding fuel poverty, regarding their benefits, regarding housing and need. We are inundated. So, unfortunate, we weren't able to attend, but I can reassure you we're there 100% behind yourselves in trying to fight against fuel poverty, and we will do whatever we can to support and put money back in the pockets of our working families who are struggling at this moment in time. It's not good enough, and we want to get back into the executive to try and ensure that we can support all those. No one should need to have to choose between heating their home and putting fuel on the table.
Thank you.
I wasn't at the rallies. I haven't had a weekend at home in 2 years.
Damien Doherty, Branch Secretary with Ulsterbus United. As you all know, we have a strike coming up. I would like to ask everybody sitting at the table for your support for our workers in this strike, but also like these to condemn the management of Translink for this week starting a PR campaign against the drivers and accusing us of neglecting school children on the week of our strike. Our drivers have those school children in their own homes that we want to take to school. We don't want to leave our children sitting at home. We've been back on the corner of this, and I would like to get the support from everybody sitting at that table for the workers, and I would like to invite every one of these out to our picket line starting on the 25th of April.
Well said, Damien, and you certainly have my support and People Before Profit support, and we will be joining you in the picket line.
Of course, this is typical behaviour where we're all in the dirt. What happens is you get people blamed for one another's sad situation.
Thanks, Damien. Absolutely no issue having support from Aontu.
Thank you, Dee. Absolutely, we will be supporting you, and I certainly hope to join you on the picket line and look forward to demonstrating physically and visibly that support.
Damien, like all others on the panel, 100% behind you.
I'm a Unison member, manager of House Noels, and this one's for Sean. And it may seem lighthearted the way it's asked, but it seems like since these elections have started, the spirit of common American has entered everybody, and it wasn't there before. So, as annotation, the best form of flattery was the people before SDLP voted.
Yeah, look, thank you, Andy. We didn't talk about this before the panel started, but look, I find I said this in the panel earlier today, and it was only Gary Middleton that disagreed. I says, it seems like everybody's a socialist now, right? Everybody's talking about workers' rights. Everybody's talking about the cost of living crisis. Everybody's talking about what they're going to do up at Stormont. But I think what we have to do is look at what's been done over the last 6 months, look at what's been done over the last year, look at what's been done over the last 5 years, look at what's been done over the last decade. That's why we're here. So yes, there is flattery in terms of, but it is a clear attempt by the SDLP to literally try and steal people before profits close. The name of our party, the red posters. But look, you know, if you want to see why it's not real, right, why the SDLP and others are not putting people before profit, the SDLP have Fianna Fáil TDs and MEPs up here over the weekend. Any party that is serious about putting people first would not be parading Fianna Fáil anybody's around any city in this country. Fianna Fáil haven't put people first for 100 years, and that's why people in the south want to get rid of Fianna Fáil and Fianna Gael. For anybody to be propping them up is an absolute disgrace.